Hello and welcome to another episode of Winemaking 101, the series where I try to answer your home winemaking questions in a condensed form. Today's subject is hydrometers and hydrometer readings. This is an area that a lot of people get baffled about, bamboozled and confused. I class a hydrometer as an essential piece of equipment for the home winemaker. If you don't have a hydrometer, I would really suggest getting hold of one. They are only cheap online or from your local homebrew store, and they will help take your winemaking to the next level. And hydrometers are not scary at all, they are easy to use. So don't be put off thinking that there's loads of maths and you have to do lots and lots of equations and trigonometry and stuff. They are simple. In the pinned comments and the description down below, I am including a document that goes into all of the equations you need. So you only need to enter the right details from your readings into the right places, and then the spreadsheet and the formula will do all of the maths for you. Always useful to have a copy, that way you don't need to remember numbers and you don't need to do any maths yourself. And I'm including it down below because I like you. First up, what is a hydrometer? A hydrometer is a gizmo that measures the sugar concentration in a liquid. They used to be made of lead, but these days it's another weighted substance, so they are perfectly safe to use in food and wine and liquids. They have a bulbous end at one end and a spiky bit at the top with numbers on, and it's those numbers that tell you the gravity of the wine. They have also made it easy for you on a lot of the hydrometers. They tell you what level you should start your wine at, they tell you when it should be bottled, and they also tell you the potential specific gravity. So you don't even need a spreadsheet or a formula, you just read the initial number and then twirl the hydrometer around and it will tell you with that amount of sugar in the liquid you are potentially going to have a wine of 10, 12, 15, 17, 20%. Another area that baffles a lot of people is when you should take your hydrometer readings. And I would say there are three main times when you should take your reading. The first time is after you've added your fruit to your liquid, and this will tell you how much sugar that fruit contains. If you know how much sugar that fruit contains, you can then work out how much sugar you need to add to the fruit and to the liquid to bring it up to your desired alcohol level. So if you're making rhubarb wine and your hydrometer says that it contains X amount of sugar, you know you need to add Y amount of sugar. The second time you need to take a hydrometer reading is after you've added the sugar and before you add the yeast. Doing it at this point will tell you and confirm that you have added the right amount of yeast to the fruit and to the liquid. It will give you a reading and you can use that reading to work out how strong your wine is going to be. You can then use this reading to balance it against the type of yeast you're going to use so that you have the right desired amount of sugar equaling that alcohol strength you're after, and also the amount of sweetness in your wine. So it does have a big bearing on the type of yeast as well. The third point you should take a hydrometer reading is when you think fermentation is over and finished. On the hydrometer, you would want to see a reading of 0.990 ideally. That means there is no sugar left in the wine, or if there is sugar in the wine and you've aimed for there to be sugar left over above the yeast tolerance, based on if you want a sweet wine and you've used a lower yeast tolerance type of yeast, then it should be about the 1.000 mark. So aim for between those depending if you want a dry wine or a sweet wine. You want to be checking your hydrometer reading every 3 days and making sure it has not gone down. If it carries on going down, the wine is still fermenting and it's not safe to bottle at all. You wouldn't want to bottle it anyway because it still needs time to mature and clear, but if you were to put a bunge in your demijohn, I like that word bunge, that is one reason I always leave my demijohns under an airlock to mature, because if there is any temperature variation and if that yeast does decide to start fermentation again, it will go kaboom, pop. Talking of temperatures, Your hydrometer will be calibrated to give you the best, most accurate reading in one particular temperature. These do vary depending on make and model of hydrometer, but fortunately for you, you don't need to remember anything. It says so on your hydrometer, the best temperature to take your reading. This one, it says just by here, 20 degrees C. So therefore, I measure the temperature of the liquid and I measure the temperature of the liquid and wait until it gets to 20 degrees C before I take my reading. If the temperature is above that, there is a calibration chart, which I'm including for you down below, because I like you, for you to do a quick calculation and get the right reading based on your liquid temperature. The theory is all well and good. You know, there's some spreadsheets and some charts, and you have this thing in your hand that you've just bought off eBay. But how do you actually use it? Well, let's jump that side of the camera and we'll take a few measurements and I'll talk you through the process. So to the workbench and we'll do some readings. The first thing you're going to need to do is take a sample of your wine and put it into your trial jar. What I find very useful for taking a sample is a 100ml syringe with a bit of thin siphon tubing on the end of it. You can buy these together and they work really well for taking samples out of your buckets or from your demijohn. Another good thing to use is a turkey baster. I want to take a reading now of rhubarb and mint wine, which I started a few days ago. I've already added the yeast. There's loads and loads and loads of bubbles on the surface of the mint and rhubarb wine. So I just want to check and make sure it's dropping and how quickly it's dropping. Right then, this way. And then pour your liquid into the trial jar that comes with the hydrometer. With your trial jar filled and the hydrometer floating up, you want to take your reading. To do this, it is better to look at the liquid at eye level. So get down to the level of the jar. So have a look and see whether liquid is at the lowest point in the trial jar. You don't want to be taking the reading when the liquid is up against the edges of the hydrometer, nor the edges of the trial jar. You want to take it at its lowest point. So my reading now is 1.070. That is not 70, that is not 0.70. You quite often see people saying, help, my wine has an alcohol volume of potentially minus 500, or even worse, if they say it the other way around, the alcohol is going to be 200% alcohol in my wine. What have I done? I've created a beast, a monster. And that is only because they're not putting the decimal point in the right place. So read it accurately. It will be 1.0 whatever the number is. And my hydrometer also says that this wine is going to be about 11%. When I started it a few days ago, it was up to 1.090, which means it's going to be about 14%. It's gone down, which is good. It is fermenting. The yeast is active, it is working. I knew that by looking at it, but it's always good to double check. You could use one of the sheets I've included down below, enter this number, and it will give you a precise number. If I take this reading again in another 2, maybe 3 weeks, and the hydrometer will be floating a lot lower in the trial jar. Like so. And it's at this stage, if that's a constant reading, you know that the wine has finished fermenting. And then you know that your liquid has turned from a juice into a wine. And using a hydrometer is as simple as that. Dip it into your trial jar, read what the number says, look at the correlating number, and there you go. If you want to double check the readings yourselves, if you don't trust what it says on the side of your hydrometer, and if you don't trust the spreadsheets I've given you down below in the pinned comments and the link, because I like you, then you can do the formula and the maths yourself. And that is simply the reading before you add your yeast minus the final reading you take once it's fully fermented, and then divide that number, the difference, by 7.362. You don't need to remember that number. Just use my sheets down below. I've made them because I like you. And talking of being down below, and if you've liked this video about how to use a hydrometer, why not subscribe down below as well whilst you're there? And also check out this awesome playlist all about tips and tricks of making wine at home. And I'll see you all soon. Have fun now.